All right, I'm really going to do this. I'm going to read you my book. So, happy day, I hope. If not, you have the choice to scroll on. Um, Here we are. So, before I get into reading my book, The Four Views of I, look at the handy bookmark I have with it. I'm going to read the cover. There's a section about the cover. Boy, this is easier done than said. Anyway, about the cover. A curious observation about a tetrahedron and perception in space time that one cannot view the entire object with our simple stereoscopic vision. At most, we can see three sides, and even then, these sides are distorted. Three sides. Anyway, time is required to view the complete tetrahedron because to see all sides, it must be rotated. The front cover shows a distorted view of three sides of the tetrahedron, and the back cover shows the hidden side. The primary colors red, blue, and yellow, along with white, are used to represent the whole individual. The tetrahedron is shown on a black background to represent the invisible dark matter of the universe, which we all reside. Okay, so that's about the cover here. So, and that represents actually, since I'm here, I'll show you. This is actually a model of a tetrahedron. See? And just like on the cover, you can see at most three sides. There's that hidden side. So in order to see all the sides, I have to turn it like this. That's why it takes time. All right, enough of that. Let's get on with the reading. The first chapter. First chapter is Inception, 4 words. Allow me to speak of the inception of the book while I attempt to help the reader understand a little about who I am. I believe if you know the source, you will have a better understanding of the material. When younger, I was a bit obsessed with the Holy Trinity and how it represented me, one made in the image of God. I often sketched triangles and other iconic representations of the Trinity while contemplating. I eventually started repeatedly sketching an Esseresque triangle, which I felt captured the mystery instilled in the Trinity. One day, my worldview was challenged while I was thinking about this, and it being in the fourth dimension. This is the Esseresque triangle I'm talking about. Okay, I had also been challenged with a Bible verse that implied, or from which I inferred, another level. To me, it spoke of more than three somethings: breadth, length, depth, and height, or as I surmised from this musing, body, mind, soul, and spirit. Therefore, this book is about 4 words: instinct, intellect, intuition, and intention. As I live, breathe, read, and experience, I find that the more I know, the more I know I don't know. It is said many of the greatest advancements and discoveries were made by people who were standing on the shoulders of giants. I would like to share the view from atop the giants I have climbed. The giants I climb take many forms: movies, books, television, series, lectures, overheard conversations, seminars, concerts, theater performances, and so on. I'm not bound to any genre or theme. I truly enjoy everything, and when I find something I don't like, I try to figure out why. I have a rigid facade I wear, but if you get to know me, you will find I have a soft, chewy center. While listening and discussing, I often skew non sequitur quotes and lyrics. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain, the great and powerful Oz. You may find some hints of that in this book. This book is a result of many years' contemplation. After a decade or more, and after I had written most of the book, a friend of mine interjected how similar it was to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's talk on the 4 quadrants. She had come to the same conclusion that everyone is made up of 4 different aspects: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. I was not aware that she had said anything about this. It is comforting to know that there is another giant that I didn't even know to climb. My intention. Through this book, I intend to share concepts and ideas I have gleaned from my life so far. My sharing should be munched on like salty chips, making you thirsty for more. Keep in mind, these are my perceptions and may be skewed by my life choices and experience. The book is not intended to be a textbook, and any resemblance to one is completely unintentional. Don't look for details, references, and what I am sharing. Please view this book as a conversation between me and you, and I am simply sharing what I have discovered and learning along the road of life so far. My advice to you, the reader, is to be serious, but don't take it seriously. Allow the ideas, and stories I tell you to give you a different perspective. I have learned much and have much more to learn. I always encourage people to question everything. There are good people who do bad things and bad people who do good things. It is not as black and white as you'd like. Test all things and hold fast to that which is good. Before we move on to the book, let me tell you a story so you may begin to get to know me. My view of authority, inception. My first lesson in authority occurred during kindergarten at Arlington Elementary in Toledo. I guess everything I needed to know I really did learn in kindergarten. Because my birthday is in mid-January, I started school a little bit older than most kids in class. I already knew how to write my name. I knew my address, I knew my phone number, and so on. I was not scared of school. I was excited to be with others and learn. At the time, I went to bed every night at 7 and slept well until morning. So morning nap time in class was really alien to me. It was a novelty for the first few days, and of course, I never slept. I had to learn how to look around the room without looking like I was looking. The two teachers were very strict about nap time. Here's a good spot to insert the fact that my twin sister was in the same classroom, and she suffered from the same nap insomnia. As her elder, I was born 10 minutes before her, I was held responsible. So I was occasionally punished for not sleeping during nap time, or more specifically, not allowing others to sleep during nap time. Read my sister. Punishment in this class was separation from the other kids, solitary confinement in the cloakroom. The cloakroom stretched across the entire back of the room, with a doorway on each end to enter. For a closet, it was a big walk-in one. The heat came through the cloakroom first and then through the vent into the classroom. I surmise this was to dry the coats and boots during the school day. It was nice and warm and quiet, with the acoustics from the coats hanging on all the walls. It was a nice place to be. My buddies had all been banished to the cloakroom from time to time, and one of them discovered that you could climb up into the vent duct and look out into the classroom through the grate. Occasionally, we would hide behind a long coat and make it hard for the person sent in to fetch us. One day, near the end of that school year, the whole class was scheduled to visit first grade classroom to see how different it would be. Kind of a pre-orientation of sorts. Because of this anticipated field trip, I was antsy during nap time. No surprise, I was sent into the cloakroom. It was a busy time, to indoctrinate children with rules of walking down the hall into other classes, staying in line, being silent, and so on. Well, the time had finally come, and one teacher led the children out of the door. The other stayed behind, sweeping the floor, cleaning up clutter, and so on. I was a bit miffed because I was missing out on the field trip. Occasionally, I would peek out the vent to see the teacher sitting quietly in the room. It seemed like forever I was in there. Then I heard the teacher get up from her chair. Looking out the vent, I watched as she walked to the door, looked around the room one last time before turning off the light, and then she left, slamming the door shut behind her. I waited for a few minutes and then realized they had forgotten me. So I creeped out of the cloakroom, moved across the room, peeked out the door into the empty hallway. All the classroom doors were closed, and it was very quiet. I wandered down the hallway to the front door of the building and looked out. Nobody was around, so I walked home. When I arrived at home, my mother and her mother, Gran was visiting from England, were sitting on the front porch chatting. Gran saw me first and asked my mother what time it was. My mother looked at me and asked what I was doing home, in a voice that told me I was in trouble. I tried to explain that school was over, but to no avail. She listened as I told her exactly what happened. She marched me inside, called the school, and then she drove me back to school. We arrived in the classroom, and I sat in my regular place. The kids were all back and were excitedly telling me how long they had looked for me, assuming I had hidden well behind one of the coats. One of my buddies even thought to crawl up into the vent duct to see if I climbed up there to hide. Suffice it to say, I received a lecture from both teachers and the principal in the short time remaining that day. Then received lectures from my mother and gran. Then I had to wait until your father gets home for my last lecture. He told me he understood what happened, and to prove it, his belt stayed on that day. This was the day that built the foundation of my understanding of authority. Authority makes mistakes, but rarely, if ever, admits them. Life, the universe, etc. Yes, Douglas Adams already told us the answer to the question of life, the universe, and everything is 42. But I would like to be a little more explicit. Something is explicit when it is directly stated and leaves no room for uncertainty. It would be wonderful to leave no room for doubt because everything is clearly and directly communicated. Sadly, I won't be doing that here, as there is not enough space in one book to do so. In fact, there is likely not enough space in all books. I am afraid the best I can do is be implicit. Something is implicit when it is implied but not directly stated. This leaves a lot of room for interpretation. As you will soon recognize, lately, I have been partial to words that begin with the letter I, so implicit is a better choice anyway. Sorry, I have a warning popped up. The law of one. In my own self-discovery, I've been thinking a lot about the law of one lately. The idea presented in a series of books channeled through Carla Reichert, known as the raw material. The basic tenet is that everything and everybody is an expression of the one. John Lennon said, I am he as you are he, and you are me, and we are all together. This view, in what we in the West call God, is intriguing to say the least. Because of this, you will see many concepts in this book some would label New Age. I ask you to wade through these concepts despite preconceived ideas. I implore you to think about and always question everything, including your preconceived ideas. By the same token, if you are embittered by your past of organized religion, I ask you to take a fresh look at possibilities you may not be aware of. I ask only for an open mind and heart and patience to get to the end of this book. It is only intended to encourage introspection. You always have the free will to choose what you believe. Okay? Ready? Let's go. And that's the end of that chapter. So, if you enjoyed me reading, say so. If you didn't, say so. It's all good. Just let me know what you're thinking, and we'll go from there. Tomorrow or the next day, I don't know how often I'm going to do this. I'll get to another chapter. All right. So that's it. You guys have a wonderful night. Bye.